So I'm going to continue this read. Chapter 30. Jesus receives news of the death of his father. He writes a letter to his mother. The letter, he sends it on his way by a merchant. I guess something that I can do is go back and read the first parts, because like it gives you a summary. This is so, I like a story being written like this. So let's go back to the beginning. All right, so Palestine, birth of Mary, Joseph Lamb's feast. Mary is blessed by the priest. His prophecy, Mary abides in the temple, is betrothed to Joseph. Betrothed. Okay, so they're talking about Mary when her birth. So this go back to Mary birth. Zacharias and Elizabeth, prophet message of Gabriel to Zacharias, Elizabeth and Mary, birth of John, prophecy of Zacharias. Okay, birth and infancy of Jesus. Okay. Birth of Jesus, masters honor the child, the shepherds rejoice, Zacharias and Elizabeth visit Mary, and Jesus is circumcised. According to the customs of Jews, the child was circumcised, and when they asked what we'll call the child, the mother said, his name is Jesus, as the name of God declared. They made sure to say that it was done because according to the customs of the Jews, Mary, she also had to go give birth in a temple or a church or something like that. So I do see the connection of why they tell the birth of Jesus, why she's relevant, as in not just his mother, but they tell you about her birth and her upbringing and how she get to the point of giving birth to him. Three margin priests, not margin, but Magian. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. Honor Jesus. Herod is alarmed, calls a council of the Jews, is told that prophets had foretold the coming of a king. Herod resolves to kill the child. Mary and Joseph take Jesus and flee into Egypt. Herod learns of the supposed mission of John, the infants of Bethlehem, I don't know, are massacred by Herod's order. You know, that's interesting because I dated somebody with this name, and I'm sure their parents was really religious. So I want to see, because he must be in the Bible, but why would they name him after somebody who mission was to kill Jesus? Maybe they misinterpret that. Because I feel like if they knew that his mission was to kill Jesus, they wouldn't have named him that, wouldn't they? Like people just be picking names out the Bible and then what, don't know who that person was in the Bible or what they represent. So the infants, da da da, and he killed a whole bunch of people, infants. So he ordered to have a whole bunch of infants killed just because he was trying to kill Jesus. Elizabeth escapes with John because Zacharias cannot tell where his son is hidden. He is murdered. Herod dies. Okay. Herod learns of the supposed mission of John. Okay, read it. Oh, these names. Archelaus, I don't know, reigns. Mary and Elizabeth with their sons are in Zoan and are taught by Elihu and Salome. Elihu's. The names be interesting, don't they? Introductory lesson tells of an interpreter. Elihu's lessons, the unity of life, the two selves, the devil, love, the savor of man, the David of the light, Goliath of the dark. This chapter is a really good one. You know what? And it talks about the Lord self a lot. Damn. When I was reading this, I remember thinking about Elihu and thinking about what he represent, and through his representation, what did he teach us? And it's very similar to this, but I really feel like I need my motherfucking glasses because all right, so let's read this chapter. Again, Elihu meet his pupils in the sacred grove and said, no man lives unto him, for every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will love and not them love in return, and not demand love in return. I wonder if Elihu's is in the Bible. Like, I don't know. I don't remember people talking about him. Come on now. I remember they don't let you copy and paste and shit. They got it locked down over here. But hold on. Why do these people come up? All right. Anywho, let's finish. They would not do to other men what they would not have other men do unto them. That's a motherfucking fact. You know, I don't think people understand why this particular book right here is really weird to me. It's weird to me because this is how I am naturally. And when I speak, ever since back when I was like writing my blog or even knew the existence of this book, because I just learned the existence of this book. And how I learned the existence of this book is by typing my birthday 129 and Jesus into Google search. And this is like the first thing that came up, maybe the second. So that's how I found this book. So if y'all go on my IG, there's a story and it's on my IG or whatever. But even before I even knew of the existence of the book, I talk like this, just about how I see and perceive and view the world. And this is not something that I read and learned about. It's not a philosophy. It's just a way of being that I am naturally. And I say that a lot. Maybe like in my older recordings or whatever, I would say stuff like, I treat others how I want to be treated. But let me tell you why I even use that term. It's because that term was taught to me by my mom. I just remember her saying it a lot, like treat others how you want to be treated, something like that. Or maybe I learned it in school. I don't know. It's related to my mom in school, early childhood. I just remember hearing that term a lot. Maybe there's something that they teach you in school. Because I feel like it should be common, but when I heard it, it always made sense to me. Like, and it's simple, it's easy. And I'm like, and that's how I am that's how I am naturally. Like when I'm interacting with somebody, I will think in a way that I will put myself in their shoes. Like, how would I want to be treated in this moment and stuff like that? Or how, but sometimes, like, don't get blinded, because sometimes you would treat people how you would want to be treated, but they not deserving of that type of treatment. And make sure you know the difference, because you have to then treat them accordingly. Okay. Be like, oh, you act like you act like you can't stop mistreating me or something. Like, you can't appreciate me. Oh, okay. All right. So you can't like continually do that to the sacrifice of yourself. You're not supposed to sacrifice yourself. All right, let's continue. Oh yeah, so when I came across this book and started reading it, I like, damn, this shit resonates super deep on a whole nother level that, you know, I feel like I already know it and I'm just going over it again, but I never read it before, up until the point that I said I had read, but yeah, okay. Anyways, there are two selves, the higher self and the lower self. And it's just so interesting how, like, Elihu, that's so deeply ingrained in his philosophy, the higher self and lower self. So when I read this, and I was like, what the fuck? Is Elihu in the Bible? This person's name Elihu's, but you see the correlation? Is it making sense to people? Yeah, he was a critic of Job and his three friends in the Hebrew Bible's book of Job. He is said to have been the son of somebody and a descendant of Buzz, who may have been from the line of Abraham. Okay. Elihu literally means my God is he. I just think it's interesting because I'm not saying that Elihu is like this divine being or something like that. I'm saying that he is representation of a particular energy. And regardless of him being demonic or angelic, he's still teaching that lesson to people. You get what I'm saying? All right. So the higher self is human spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of God. The higher self is a human spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of God. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires is a reflection of the higher self distorted by the mercury ethers of the flesh. Yes. I'm fucking with this book. I have to get it. I gotta get it written. I mean, physical copy. Um, because it helps me to explain things. That's why I wanted to read it and do a read along and shit, because it helped me to explain things that I might struggle to explain sometimes. So the lower self is an illusion and will pass away. That's why in the flesh you die, but your spirit will live forever. The higher self is God in man and will not pass away. See? The higher self is an embodiment of truth reverse, and so is falsehood manifest. See, that really interests me right there. The higher self is the embodiment of truth reverse. And so is falsehood manifest. The higher self is justice, mercy, love. So the higher self is a representation of like everything, good and evil. I guess kind of like what I was just saying. But I really want to know Elihu's story. I'm really curious about his story. Because, we might could learn something about Elihu by following that story. I'm just saying. Could it have been this right here, the reincarnation of this particular line right here? Embodiment of truth reverse and soul and falsehood manifest. You still learn the lesson, even though they're being demonic. The higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. The lower self is what the higher self is not. That simple. That simple. And if you make it heavier than that, then it's going to start getting clouded, because the higher self is an embodiment of like just everything manifested, but the lower self is just not that. People will say that the lower self is a certain action, the lower self, but a person that is connected to their higher self or living that, embodying the higher self, they could do something that somebody had deemed a lower self action and show that you could use it and still be in that higher self energy. Like, for instance, I could cuss somebody out, but they won't feel like I'm trying to tear them down because that's not my intentions behind it. So they will view me cussing somebody out in a different manner than somebody else. You get what I'm saying? So, well, I hope you understanding. It's kind of hard to explain because I understand that people are really caged into their mentality. And a lot of people have been taught what is right and what is wrong. And it really doesn't even matter. Like, the reason why you was even taught that is to keep you stagnant, is to keep you stuck. because you be locked into a way of being that's not beneficial to nobody for a false promise. So you wasting your whole life for a false promise, not exploring, not experiencing, not learning, because you are locked into some type of mentality that tell you this is what's right and this is what's wrong, instead of learning it for yourself. All right, so where am I? The Lord self breeds hatred, slander, lawlessness, murders, death, everything that harms. The higher self is mother of the virtues and the harmonies of life. Yes. Okay, so when you are in the flesh, you are controlled by your desires. So it automatically leads to these things right here. Things that harms other souls, harms other spirit. It's just like a natural side effect. The Lord self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gains, but gives unrest and misery and death. That's the motherfucking truth. The Lord self breeds hatred, slander, lawlessness. Oh, no, wrong one. The Lord self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, satisfying gains, but gives unrest and misery and death. Because you control by your desires. So they have traps set up for people like that, but they train you to be like that. Then they put you in a trap where you willing to sacrifice yourself for your desires, right? And they will give you all of these promises that you never receive. And then you might be wealthy and materialism, but you would never have peace. You never feel happy or satisfied because you sacrifice so much of yourself. So now you kind of like a walking corpse. So at the end of the day, you is in misery, and misery manifests death. It does. It gives man apples that are lovely to the eye and pleasant to the smell. Their cores are full of bitterness and gall. If you would ask me what to study, I would say yourselves. And when you have studied them and then would ask me what to study next, I will reply yourselves. People literally don't feel like they are worth studying. Like for instance, my husband, I just call him that, but we are separating. He's very religious. He dedicated his whole life to a philosophy, but he called that philosophy God. He believed that he dedicated his life to God, but it's really a philosophy. Um, so there are times that he would say, like, he feel like our whole purpose is to worship this philosophy in a way that it tells you to. But he don't feel like you should get to know yourself. Like you're basically irrelevant. Like your whole life should be dedicated to God, but it's really to him, it's a philosophy. But you can't convince him that, because he convinced that that philosophy, that one religion sector that he has found is the truth, the only truth, and God is embodied in that one specter or whatever. That it, to me, it doesn't make sense at all, but to him it's everything. He built his whole life around it. He sacrificed for it. He, you know what I'm saying? So, and he don't even, that's his life. But it really is limited. It's not like he would have to come back a few lifetimes and get out of that to actually ascend. But I do feel like he's a young soul. All right, let's go. All right. Because I completely forgot my point. So, oh yeah, him feeling like he don't have no power or no interest in knowing who he is, who he truly is, what he, his own light, his own divinity. Because he don't believe that the divinity is in him. He believe that it is external. So he who knows well his lower self knows the illusions of the world, knows of the things that pass away. And he who knows his higher self know God, knows well the things that cannot pass away. Thus, blessed is a man who has made purity and love his very own. He has made a ransom from the perils of the lower self and himself and his higher self. Yeah, and when you to this point, it don't feel like you are sacrificing. Because I feel like some people will feel like by me even saying that, like, okay, for instance, the way I live is not because of anything. It's just who I am at the core, me naturally. You know, I'm deeply in my spirit. A person that's like really in their flesh, but they be confusing it as they in their spirit. Um, they will hear you speak and be like, oh, see, you one of those religious preaching people. Like, I can't sin, I can't do this, I can't do that. That ain't what I'm saying. I'm saying find harmony and within yourself. Because these people will be talking like that, but they be living out of their traumas. They be living out of their fears. So that's what I'm talking about, like freeing yourself from that. I don't give a fuck that you are, because I don't even believe in sin in that way, you know, but it's really about your own happiness, your own inner peace. So, you know, people get defensive and be like, oh, you telling me what I should and shouldn't be. No, I mean, I'm saying that you lost. You don't even know what you is. But you trying to be all these different personalities. Like they going around trying on different mentalities, seeing what fits them, but they not taking time to learn who they are. And sometimes I know it's hard. You have to be patient because you learn through experiences. It's the truth. But, you know, people get so stuck in one cycle, one experience, that they can't even evolve out of that to learn a newer one to get to the next step. And the only reason they holding on to it is because they so controlled by their desires in their flesh. So, all right, let's go. Man seeks salvation from an evil that they deem a living monster of the nether world. Man seeks salvation from an evil that they deem a living monster of the netherworld. And they have gods that are but demons in disguise. All powerful, yet full of jealousy, hate, and lust. That's a motherfucking fact. Whose favors must be bought with costly sacrifice of fruits and of the lives of birds and animals and humankind. And yet these gods possess no ears to hear, no eyes to see, no heart to sympathize, no power to save. This evil is a myth. These gods are made of air, clothed with shadows of a thought. Wow, that's deep. That's the truth, though. And there might be Christians that's following along with me and be like, they feel like that's what they're doing in Christianity. But no, because your God is still external. They say get to know yourself because it's about your inner kingdom, your inner God. If you externalize him in any form or fashion, you are this right here. You are doing the same thing. You are sacrificing, giving, worshiping a false God if it's external. If you believe that God is external. The only devil from which man must be redeemed is self, the lower self. If man will find his devil, see, he must look within. His name is self. If man will find his savor, he must look within. And when the demon self has been dethroned, the savior, love, will be exalted to the throne of power. The David of the light is purity, who slays the strong Goliath of the dark and seats the Savior, love, upon the throne.